So once again, hello everybody. It's Monday, it's the Deer Park, it's the Buddha Center. Great place to be, really good at physical distancing here, so we're all safe. So let's get started like we normally do, short period of bell meditation. Wherever you are behind your avatar, please get into a nice meditation posture. And as I ring the Ching bell, the idea, focus on the sound of the bell. Really get that deep listening going, get that concentration going. So we can all absorb some Dharma today. You'll probably get distracted. Happens to all of us. When it does, I just want you to gently remind yourself, go back to focusing on the sound of the bell. The more you can go back to your focus, the stronger that focus will become, the stronger that deep listening will be. Then there'll be the 3 recitations, then on with the talk for today. So I'll give you a moment, get into a nice posture. We begin at the sound of the bell. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the teacher. I go for refuge to the Dhamma, the teaching. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the taught. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dhamma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I have taken refuge in the Buddha. I have taken refuge in the Dhamma. I have taken refuge in the Sangha. 3 pure precepts. Cease to do harm. Do only good. Do good for others. Bodhisattva vow. However innumerable all beings are, I vow to lead them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Swaha. Let's try this again. I don't think my voice was working. So today we're on the 5th of the 6 refinements. We've talked about generosity, we've talked about morals, we've talked about acceptance, and on Friday, we talked about energy or vitality. So today we're going to talk about meditation. First thing we have to acknowledge, if you will, is that the Indian ideal of meditative practice may be one of their greatest contributions to world culture. If there's one thing that began in India, it seems, and really just spread everywhere across the globe, it is certainly meditation or meditative practices. We find them in all types of belief systems. And in the Bhagavad Gita on meditation, it is written, quote, "If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. And better than meditation is the renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind." So even in the very earliest writings of the Hindi culture, we have talk about meditation. And many religious and philosophical traditions engage in some form of meditative practice whose processes can be directly or indirectly traced back to Indian origins. Bhavana may be a word you've heard. Here, let me cut and paste this. It's not a common word, but you may have heard it in your Buddhist travels. Put it out here. That word, Bhavana. It's the most traditional word for meditation from the Indian language, and it is translated as cultivation or development. And this is what meditation practice is directed toward, right? We're trying to cultivate a personal character. We're trying to develop a personal character, a wholesome personal character. So no matter the tradition that applies meditative practice, they do so to bring into existence a more positively developed personal character and a clearer view of reality. And it is a spiritual exercise that helps develop mental experiences that differ greatly from any normal perception of how we are, mostly because we just look deeper at how we are. We're not just skimming the surface, if you will. Meditation is an English word. It has medieval Europe and classical Latin and Greek roots, and it was chosen to skillfully redescribe the Indian spiritual practices because those practices had so many parallels to existing Western meditative techniques. So we just kind of tried to fold them all together. Meditations have come from such diverse Western sources as Marcus Aurelius and Descartes, and medieval European monasteries, where meditative practices have been offered in a wide variety of guises, from contemplative meditations that we find in Christian sects mostly, to contemporary secular mindfulness meditations. So meditations from the religious to the secular. Excuse me. Some of these practices may not seem to have any connection to Buddhist meditative practices, but it really boils down to just a matter of cultural perception. We may not be able to see that, and that's okay. Even in Western context, the main purpose behind meditation was to develop a spiritual practice, and that's one that could alter the practitioner's perception of how they interacted with themselves and how they interact with the world around them. Millennia of experiences have shown that the commitment and concentration necessary in meditation does have a positive effect on the practitioner's spiritual and secular development. And I keep mentioning secular because we always want to keep in mind that meditation isn't only effective from a religious or a philosophical standpoint, it also just has great value from a secular or a non-religious standpoint. Generosity, morals, tolerance, energy, and one we haven't talked about yet, wisdom, are presented as personal virtues. And this makes sense. But the addition of meditation to that list might not make sense. You might think, well, how does that apply to my personal virtues or my personal character? Well, meditation is a physical activity that most see as consisting of just sitting and not thinking. So they look at it as a physical practice that one engages in. You'll often hear people say, wow, I had a great meditation practice yesterday. I sat for an hour. Okay, well, I can sit for an hour, but not necessarily be meditating, right? So it's not the length of time of our meditation, it's what happens during the meditation. And as much can happen in 5 minutes of meditation as can happen in 5 hours of meditation, just depends. So meditation is a physical activity, and that's true. But when we look again, and as the personal virtues of generosity and morals, tolerance and energy and wisdom are presented in the Mahayana tradition, they too are physical practices, because we have to act in these ways for them to have value and for them to become virtues, right? Part of our personal character. And the idea that meditation does not fit as a personal virtue is a result of a misunderstanding of a particular aspect of meditative practice. A regular, committed meditative practice leads to the development of things like thoughtfulness, imagination, serenity, and contemplation. And those things that we develop through meditation can become a noticeable component of our character. And that's the idea, or at least one of them anyway. So the practitioner approaches the experiences in life with an equanimity and serenity that begins to be noticed by others. And they say, oh, you're a lot calmer than you used to be in the midst of trying situations. What's up? How'd you do that? And you say, well, I've been developing this meditation practice and it's really helped me. Well, that's being an example to others. Meditation in the list of refinements comes after what we talked about last week, Friday. It comes after the refinement of energy, because meditation takes vitality and it takes vigor, because we're trying to pursue a redirection as well as a reconfiguration of how we think and how we act. That takes energy. So energy and meditation are closely tied, as one directly develops the other in a loop of causal conditioning. Energy, better meditation. Better meditation, better energy. The Mahayana legacy masters understood that the realizing of raw energy, or what we call the energy of spirit, required the guidance of a meditative and wise mind. Basically, you needed a teacher. And in the early encounters between Buddhist meditative practices and the West, a fundamental misunderstanding of that practice had scholars announcing that Buddhists were antisocial and unintelligible, meaning they didn't hang out with people and what they said made no sense. They felt that Buddhists separated themselves from society in order to pursue their religion. Well, hopefully you guys all see the misunderstanding in that. Contemporary thought and experience is proving that social engagement is extremely important in Buddhist practice, including meditative practice. Think about how, even here at the Buddha Center, and I've had a couple of people tell me this, that they attend the meditation sessions that some of you folks hold or that you attend yourselves. They come here to this virtual world and they sit with other avatars with the knowledge and the experience that there are real human beings behind those avatars. And that having that firm time to come and sit with others, even though those others might be thousands of miles away in reality, has a positive effect on a person's meditative experience. And that's a form of social engagement. So meditation has been a core practice for Buddhists as evidenced by the earliest Buddhist texts. For example, the Pathapada Sutta. This comes from the Digha Nikayas. And in that particular sutra, they speak about the three poisons of greed and aversion and delusion. And these are things, these hindrances that could be negated by the discipline and the concentration that's required of a meditative practice. The first goal of meditation was to remove these obstructions to a calm and deliberate pursuit of moments of enlightenment. So they were hindrances, as we've talked about before. A practitioner also worked through meditation to develop and maintain mindfulness of their own habitual reactivities, whether they were wholesome or unwholesome. So this was viewed as the single most productive knowledge for any human being, to be able to know ourselves. That could be the single most productive knowledge that we could have. Because once we know ourselves and once we can control our emotions and we can respond to situations rather than react to them, we become better human beings. This reflexive mindfulness allowed the practitioner the ability to overcome those 5 hindrances, those conscious triggers that were known to cause human suffering, like sensual desire, ill will, tiredness and laziness, elation and depression, and doubt. And meditation could give one the mental skills needed to both realize and combat these forces that worked against human flourishing and that worked against the alleviation of suffering. Traditional Buddhists, they didn't feel that just anyone in any situation could make use of meditation as a skill. They felt that one had to have a certain moral platform, or an innate or taught even mindful character. And of course, a teacher and a surrounding group of like-minded individuals if they were going to have any chance of reaching a level of understanding that would make meditative practice actually useful. And this thinking spurred the development of monasteries and the building of temples, so there would be places that monastics could come and train. And in the other case, laity could come and practice. I want to touch on something here. Traditional Buddhists did not feel that just anyone in any situation could make use of meditation as a skill. And they pointed to, you got to have a certain moral platform, or you got to have a taught mindful character. And in some ways, there's truth to that. And this is why you will find that many contemporary meditation teachers, from a Buddhist standpoint, not a secular standpoint, will want to talk some about Buddhism before they teach meditation. And it's just for that reason, because they're pointing to what is your moral platform as you begin in a meditation practice. How mindful are you at this point? Because it takes mindfulness to really get something out of meditation. So learn about mindfulness, then begin meditation, and then meditation brings out more mindfulness as you practice mindfulness. For example, so early in the developing tradition, there were 2 distinctive types of meditation practice that developed parallel to each other, but then they became inexorably linked as one strategy to achieve a strong spiritual practice. And these were the calming meditative practices known as samatha, and then there were the insight meditation practices known as vipassana. So calming meditation is recognized today as basically mindfulness breathing. We hear about this all the time. Watch your breath in and out, focus on the breath. And the idea of this was to bring the practitioner to what's called a one-pointedness of mind. In other words, get your concentration and your focus really strong. Right? Be one-pointed when you are thinking about something or working on something. And insight meditation cultivates the practitioner's ability to think specifically about the arising of enlightening wisdom or moments of enlightenment. So you begin to see them within yourself. This practice actually paralleled the example set by the Buddha as he sat and meditated to realize how human beings and their world actually worked. What was the reality, the Dharma? Hello, Lala. These meditative techniques were taught separately. And then as Buddhism matured, there was the realization that this calming and insight meditation were codependent, in that the strength of one technique offered strength to the other. Calming enabled the mind to avoid distraction and to focus intently, so that reflection on the Dharma would be deeper and more meaningful in the pursuit of enlightenment. Like so many things we talk about, right? They were codependent on one another. They were causal factors in either the strengthening or the weakening of one another, depending on how the practice was pursued. Meditation is exercise in how we engage our conscious mind, and it also helps us uncover what's in our subconscious mind. And in Engaged Dharma, we frame meditation within three basic formats of human consciousness. We do this as an exercise and as a practice. And we're not talking here about only on the cushion meditation, but we are equally referring to the meditative practice that becomes an integral component of our moment-to-moment existence as our practice matures. Making meditative practice a holistic component of how we interact with the world reflects the value it has as a component of our personal character, and also its place in the 6 refinements of our personal character. So these 3 formats of human consciousness have parallels in something that we talked about, I think, a couple of weeks ago, which is why I talked about it then. This comes straight out of pragmatic Buddhism, and that's awareness, acceptance, action. So some of you may remember us talking about these, the 3 A's, if you will. Yeah, I'm going to cut and paste them here just so you have the 3 words. So when we're engaging in a meditation practice, or we're training someone in a meditation practice, we bring up these 3 words: awareness, acceptance, action. And so we take awareness first. Awareness, this is immediate experience. This is the direct awareness of the moment, involving not only the awareness that we are brought to by our sensory input, touch, smell, taste, hearing, sight, and mind, but also the emotions or feelings that arise. And even though they may not be directly reflected, we still want to be aware of them. And this meditative level entails not clinging or attaching to any thoughts or labeling in order to achieve a more direct experience. This is a pre-linguistic awareness, if you will. So it's awareness without label, without judgment. It is an experience that is a meditative state that connects our basic consciousness to the world, and may also be our first experience of having a state of, let's call it, spiritual being. Having maybe that moment of enlightenment that we've never had before. The meditation of watching the breath, this is the basic practice at this level, both in traditional and contemporary Buddhist practice. It aids in the development of the ability to achieve one-point focus on a task. The practitioner looks to calm that whirlwind of thoughts in the mind, the monkey mind, if you will. And this enables to reduce it to a gentle breeze, one that we can let blow by without noticing it or without commenting on it. This allows the development of a deeper focus and concentration that is crucial for a deeper meditation practice to mature. The ability to focus and concentrate, though, is just as valuable off the cushion. It doesn't matter what activity we're engaging in. So when I speak about we take these things off the cushion, this is a great example. We spend time in meditation learning to focus, and we'll use breath as an example, learning to focus on the breath. But we can take that focus to other things off the cushion. Bell meditation that we do at the beginning of the Sangha session is another example of meditative practice that's meant to develop mindfulness of the body-mind state. That state of monkey mind will become immediately apparent when, as meditators, we try to focus on the sound of the Qing bell, but we keep getting pulled away from it. So the body-mind focuses deeply in those first moments of the sound, but can find it difficult to maintain focus as the tone and the vibration soften and fade away to nothing. In the brief moment of silence between strikes is when the monkey mind really tries to exert its influence, much like it does in the pause between breaths when we're in a breathing meditation. So those little moments of silence in between, that's when the monkey mind says, now's my chance. We want to be aware of that. Next is acceptance. And with awareness becoming a spontaneous activity of our consciousness, meaning we don't even think about it anymore, we just find ourselves being more and more aware, that meditation turns to inquiry and reflection on how things are and how we fit, or how we want to fit into the scheme of things. Questions are raised, we think about experiences, and we make judgments as to the what, when, where, how, and why of our moment-to-moment engagement. I made a mistake there. I don't want to use the word judgment. A better word there would be and make discernment, and discern as to the what, when, where, how, and why of our moment-to-moment engagement. We just want to discern how it works, or what we need to do. We don't want to judge, because judging takes us into a whole other category. But this is where we learn to make the best decisions possible in any given circumstance, engaging in mental exercises, for example, of situational generosity, or situational morality, or ethics, if you will, and situational tolerance. Initially, exposure to this level of meditation leads the practitioner to believe it is easy to do because we, especially in the West, seem hardwired to make judgments and to ask questions. When rigorous self-honesty and imagination become factors, the practitioner is faced with the prospect of judging and questioning themselves. This is often a daunting aspect of insight meditation, or vipassana, and it can lead to one abandoning a meditation practice for fear of learning things about themselves that they don't want to come to grips with. They just simply don't want to know or accept. Various visualization meditative techniques are practiced at this level. In these practices arise the truth of how we really are in our interactions with the world and how we imagine ourselves to be. Visualization founded in rigorous self-honesty will enable us to realize what is the reality of our body-mind state and allow us to practice how we can do better. Do not mistake this, though, for wish fulfillment or some kind of new age visualization exercise. This type of visualization offers a mirror of what is, what could be, and how we can get there. But we have to develop the commitment necessary and make the effort necessary if we want transformation to occur. The Buddha taught the ideal of causality, the idea what is because something else is. But just wishing and hoping will not make it happen. The realization of how we are, coupled with the realization of how we want to be, adds a contemplative factor to our meditative experience. So in the beginning, we're practicing with awareness, with trying to ease up on the thinking, right? But it seems when we get into the Vipassana style or insight meditation that we want to do, we start to have to really think about ourselves. We have to contemplate. So we've got awareness, we've got acceptance, and then action. Excuse me. Meditation turns to action as it becomes a mirror that reflects the thoughts and actions of our mind. And we reflect those back upon ourselves. It is when we begin to better understand ourselves through deep awareness of our habitual reactivities and how impermanence and causality affects us, then we begin to get a better handle on how we are and how we can be. We discover the truth of the not-self, and we discover our interdependence on the causal process of the universe. It can be difficult and disconcerting when we come face to face with I, the capital letter I, with discovering that it may be ego that is holding us back from how we imagine we could be. For example, body awareness meditation reveals how one thinks and responds to the body, what is done about pain and discomfort, or to what one really thinks about weight, physical appearance, etc. And are those perceptions valid? Meditation also turns to action as we apply the abilities necessary to experience deeper awareness of the world around us and to accept how things really are and what actions we must take to achieve our goals. Metta-based meditation. Lots of us do this. Metta-based meditation practices give us the opportunity to experience interconnection with and interdependence on other human beings through visual realizations of acts of loving kindness and of generosity. So we practice in our mind acting with loving kindness or acting with generosity of spirit. We approach the moment-to-moment experiences of life with calm and focus that we first practice on the cushion. And we accept that what we do matters, and so we set out to take the most positive actions possible in any given situation to promote human flourishing and the alleviation of suffering. So a complete meditation practice seeks to develop a deep level of integration between these three aspects: awareness, acceptance, action. So the 6 refinements have long been practices aimed at improving personal character. And like the Dharma as set forth by the Buddha, the 6 refinements also need to be reevaluated and redescribed as culture, context, and time passes. Just as we as practitioners must see ourselves as we really are before we can see ourselves as we want to be, we must make an honest appraisal of practices to ensure they serve the purposes that they were intended for. Practices are meant to be useful and productive in the achievement of positive personal and societal transformation, no matter the culture, the context, or the time. And I add that in at the end because there are some folks that have come to me talking about a Buddhist meditation practice, and they will use sometimes the word versus a secular meditation practice. And it's important for us to realize that mindfulness meditation or any meditation practice has value outside of a belief system. And so we want to accept that secular meditation practices are equally valuable to any meditation practice that's placed within a religious or a philosophical belief system.